2.5 years after the Trump administration launched an official policy to separate migrant children from their parents, and after a judge ordered them to reunite those families, hundreds of kids are still without their parents, and those parents cannot be found. NBC News reports that lawyers appointed by a federal judge to identify migrant families who were separated by the Trump administration say they have yet to track down the parents of 545 children. That approximately 2/3 of those parents were deported to Central America without their children, leaving the families separated, possibly permanently. One of the top reporters on this monstrous story, who detailed exactly what the Trump administration did to migrant families in his book, Separated: Inside an American Tragedy, is MSNBC and NBC News correspondent Jacob Soboroff, and he joins me now. Jacob, the group of children here at issue are a group of children taken from their parents in the very beginning of the Trump administration administering this policy. Explain who they are and how this group is different than the later group.
Precisely, Chris. This is a group of 1,556 children identified by NGOs, the Trump administration, and the ACLU. That group has been winnowed to about 1,100, and of that 1,100, 545 parents are still effectively unreachable, is what the groups refer to them as, that are searching for them on the ground. And when I say searching, literally searching door to door in some cases for parents, because the contact information that was provided was faulty. This group of children was separated even before the policy that came to be known as zero tolerance was ever in place, during the El Paso so-called pilot program in 2017 and in other places along the southwest border around that time as well.
Yeah, this was them experimenting with this as a policy in 2017 before they sort of made it a systemic policy that created the backlash. And so this was all happening much more under the radar in terms of press. What do we know about where these kids are? Like, who is looking after them now? They've now been in U.S. custody for 3 years?
Yeah, and it's unbelievable. I actually talked to an 8-year-old boy from Honduras who's living in Northern California with his aunt and uncle just last night, expecting this news to be filed in court today. The father is still in Honduras, and he's trying to get brought back to the United States. It's an almost insurmountable legal hurdle based on the terms of this agreement that was made between the ACLU and the federal government. But I just want to reiterate, what these children went through has been now categorized as government-sanctioned child abuse by the American Academy of Pediatrics, as torture by Physicians for Human Rights. And it was perpetrated by the Trump administration, political officials, after they were warned by career people in HHS, in DHS, in the Department of Justice, as was reported just a couple of weeks ago, that this policy was going to have the exact consequences that we're talking about right now. The record keeping wasn't there. They wouldn't be able to track these families down. And here we are, as you said, almost 3 years later, with trauma compounded, if you talk to child healthcare professionals, probably on a daily basis for these children.
In terms of reuniting these families, which is the ultimate goal here, it sounds like there's a few obstacles. One is finding the parents. The other, just so that I understand this, you're saying that even if they're located, them being able to come back to the United States to take their child is harder than it appears. Is that right?
Particularly for parents who were deported without their children. In the original class, there were 400 or so that were deported without their children, and I think 29 were brought back to the United States in this expanded class. I think that there's a number that's basically equivalent to that at this point, and that's because of a narrow definition of what can be considered for reunification under the terms of the settlement agreement. And at the end of the day, it's almost inexplicable that the government would be able to do this, would be able to take parents and children from one another. And out of 1,100, at this point, we're only talking about a handful or two. And the other thing I should point out is, Chris, some of the parents have opted to leave their children with family members in the United States instead of deport them if the government is saying to them, sorry, we're not going to bring you back to the United States. But that isn't their choice.
That is really something. My God. Jacob Soboroff, great reporting as always. Thank you.